Welcome, my lovely grade 3s, to this WorksheetCloud.com's online lesson. I hope you had a wonderful, lovely weekend, long weekend, and had a good freedom day, and missed me during this weekend because today we're going to be looking at comprehension skills and reading skills. So I hope that you're excited for that, grade 3s. You don't need a pencil or a pen for this lesson or a page. You actually just need to listen and to pay attention and to read, because that's very important about this lesson, grade 3s. So I hope that you're excited to be doing this with me, teacher Nicole, today, and we're going to get into it. So without wasting any more time, grade 3s, if you have any questions, please send your emails to grade3@worksheetcloud.com, and we'll try and get back to you as soon as we can after this lesson. So, like I said in my introduction, today we're looking at reading and comprehension skills. I know some of you are thinking, but why would I need to learn reading and comprehension skills? Isn't it the same thing? Well, no, grade 3s, it's not the same thing. Reading skills is the ability to see a word and be able to say it out loud. Identify the word, see the word, okay? And be able to read in a specific amount of time. Whereas comprehension skills is the ability to understand what you have read. So I can read reading and comprehension skills. I can read, but do I understand what I'm reading? And that is what comprehension skills teaches you. So that's the difference, grade 3s, between the two skills. Right, so let's get into the lesson overview. Our lesson overview for today is we're going to be looking at vocabulary first. So I'm going to say that word again, vocabulary, so that you can say it and we can work through what exactly is vocabulary. Reading and how to predict. We're going to read the story, and then we're also going to be looking at reading strategies today. So vocabulary. The words we're going to look at today is lazy, anxious, and impatient. All three of these words come from the story that we're going to read later on in the story. So the word lazy means to not want to do anything, or things like get up. But the important part about the word lazy is that it's the unwillingness to do these things, the unwillingness to use energy to do something. And why am I emphasizing? Is because sometimes people get confused between being lazy and being tired. To be tired is to not have energy to do something and you'd want to have a nap. To be lazy is to make a choice not to do something. Right, then the word anxious. The word anxious means the feeling or showing worry. And I know a lot of people and a lot of you are very anxious right now because of coronavirus and COVID-19, right? So I'm saying the two different words in case you get confused. So coronavirus and COVID-19 are the exact same things, okay? It's just two ways of how people are saying it. So people are feeling very anxious about it. They are worried. They are showing that worry, and that is what anxious means. Then the word impatient means restlessly eager, and that can be a little bit confusing still for you, grade 3s, because restlessly eager is also a bit complicated. So what the word impatient actually means, it means that when you don't want to wait for something. Remember when you're standing at a restaurant or waiting on your food and they're taking long and you keep asking your parents or your guardians, where is the food coming? When is the food coming? When is the food coming? That is an example of impatience, okay? It's not being patient. You're not being willing to wait for something. Okay. So, the lazy lion. In the heading, it starts with a figure of speech which is called alliteration. Both these words start with the letter L. Okay, so I'm teaching you something new there, grade 3s. A figure of speech. Alliteration. Lazy lion. They both start with the letter L. So, what can you predict about the story just based on the title? Well, the first thing that's going to pop up in your head, grade 3s, is what does the word prediction mean? Well, the word prediction means a guess, but it's not just any guess. If I had to guess what the story was about and I said, I think this story is about a dog, that wouldn't be a very good guess because in the title it says nothing about a dog. So, grade 3s, a prediction is an informed guess. It's about taking the information we already have and now making a guess about it, okay, or guessing about it. So, a lot of you would think about a lion not wanting to do anything because we already discussed what the word lazy meant in the previous slide. So, a good guess would be a lion not wanting to do anything. So, that would be our prediction. Predict what you think the story is about. So, I'm going to give you a few seconds just to have a think about it. Remember, this is about comprehending the story now. Before we even read it, we are looking at the title and we're trying to predict what we think the story will be about. Okay, so let's get into the story. The Lazy Lion. Once upon a time, there was a lion. This lion's name was Curly. Curly enjoyed lying in the sun and asking people to do things for him. Mr. Zebra was a very good friend to Curly, and he used to visit him often. "How are you?" Mr. Zebra asked. "I'm so tired, Zebra," Curly said. "I feel like I just do so much. Later, I have to tell Mrs. Lion to get food to eat." Zebra smiled to himself. "You should take it easy, Curly. You should not overdo it." But Mr. Zebra knew that Curly did not do much at all. He always used to lie around. Mr. Zebra had a family to look after. He went to work, he got them food, and he still found time to visit his friend. Mr. Zebra tried to show Curly how important it was to do things, so he hid his most prized possession, his cell phone. "I'm going to go to work. Enjoy the rest of your day." Curly decided to take a nap after Mr. Zebra left. When he woke up, he wanted to check his messages, but his phone was not lying next to him like it usually does. Lion became anxious. "Mrs. Lion," he shouted, "have you seen my phone?" She shook her head while she tried to cook his food. "Could you help me look?" "Sure, my love." Mrs. Lion looked everywhere. Next to the tree, under the rocks, by the river. It was nowhere to be seen. Curly became very impatient. He wanted his phone, and yet he did not move from where he was laying. "Ask all the animals to come and help." Mrs. Lion got all the animals in the village to help him look for the phone. They looked all day and all night. Nothing. Mr. Zebra shook his head. He knew where the phone was, and he did not need so many animals to help look for it. But Curly was just too lazy. Everyone was tired and they went home. Finally, he got up to go to the bathroom, and there it was, his phone, lying under him the whole time. Curly realized that for 2 whole days he did not get up. He made everyone look for his phone, and it was under him the whole time. He felt very bad. After that, he decided to be less lazy and get up more often. The end. So, grade 3. The story was based on a lion that was looking for his phone. And where was his phone? It was lying under him, the best hiding place because he refused to move. So that is what the lesson of the story is, that we should not be very lazy, because then we don't help people and we get other people to do hard work when we're doing nothing. So we will get into the morals or lessons of the story in the next lesson. But for now, we are focusing on our reading skills. So I've just read the story aloud, and I hope, grade 3s, that you followed as I read. And now we're going to go on to the next part of this lesson. So we're going to look at reading skills. When you read, you must read the story twice. Why? Because when you read it the first time, you have an idea what the story is about. But when you read it the second time, it becomes clearer, grade 3. Now, instead of us having a slight idea about the story, the information becomes a bit more clear the next time we read it. We need to read the questions. That's very important. When we are busy with reading or comprehension skills, there will always be questions asked on a story. So it's actually testing your comprehension skills when you answer those questions. But you still don't just answer the questions. You actually need to read. So grade 3s, we're going to read the story again, and this time I'm hoping that you're going to read with me. The reason for that is so that we have a better understanding of the story before we go on. Once upon a time, there was a lion. This lion's name was Curly. Curly enjoyed lying in the sun and asking people to do things for him. Mr. Zebra was a very good friend to Curly, and he used to visit him often. "How are you?" Mr. Zebra asked. "I'm so tired, Zebra," Curly said. "I feel like I've got so much to do. Later I have to tell Miss Lion to get food to eat." Zebra smiled to himself. "You should take it easy, Curly. You should not overdo it." But Mr. Zebra knew that Curly did not do much at all. He was always lying around. Mr. Zebra had a family to look after. He went to work, he got them food, and he still found time to visit his friend. Mr. Zebra tried to show Curly how important it was to do things. So he hid his most prized possession, his cell phone. "I'm going to go to work. Enjoy the rest of your day." Curly decided to have a nap after Mr. Zebra left. When he woke up, he wanted to check his messages, but his phone was not lying next to him like it usually does. Lion became anxious. "Mrs. Lion," he shouted, "have you seen my phone?" She shook her head while she tried to cook his food. "Could you help me look?" "Sure, my love." Mrs. Lion looked everywhere. Next to the tree, under the rocks, by the river. It was nowhere to be seen. Curly became very impatient. He wanted his phone, and yet he did not move from where he was laying. "Ask all the animals to come and help." Mrs. Lion got all the animals in the village to help them look for the phone. They looked all day and all night. Nothing. Mr. Zebra shook his head. He knew where the phone was, and it did not need so many animals to help look for it. But Curly was just too lazy. Everyone was tired, and they went home. Finally, he got up to go to the bathroom, and there it was, his phone, lying under him all the time. Curly realized that for 2 whole days he did not get up. He made everyone look for his phone, and it was under him the whole time. he felt very bad. After that, he decided to be less lazy and get up more often. The end. So grade 3s, we've read our story twice, and now we have a little bit of a better understanding of what the story is all about. So we're going to go now to the next slide, which again is going to tell us about reading strategies, and we're going to move on to the elements of a story. So when I spoke about elements of a story, I was speaking specifically about being able to retell a story, and there are very important questions that we ask when we want to retell a story. Now, the elements of a story speaks about characters, where it happens, what happens, etc. And we're going to go into much more detail in the next lesson. But for now, we're going to look at retelling the story. And these are the questions you ask when you want to retell the story. Who? What? How? And why? So when we retell the story, we want to answer these questions and tell the reader or the audience what we think the story is about. And the reason for retelling a story is to show that you actually understand what the story was all about. So I'm going to leave this on for a little bit, grade 3s, and I want you to think who, what, how, and why. And think about those questions. And when you're talking about it or discussing it or writing it down, if you want to, I want you just to take a moment to do that. And then I'm going to put up on the screen what, who, what, how, and why is all about. So who is the story about? The lazy lion. Okay, that's who the story is about. But obviously you can go into a bit more detail, but I'm just trying to be as basic as I can. So who is the story about? The story is about the lazy lion, and that lazy lion had a name, and his name was Curly. Okay, what? So what happened? He lost his phone, and that really upset him because we read the story twice and we now know that the losing of his phone made him very anxious and it made him very impatient. And those are our two words that we learned at the beginning of this lesson. How? Mr. Zebra hid it. So what happened? He lost his phone. But how did that happen? Mr. Zebra hid it. Why? Curly was lazy and did not want to get up. So if I had to tell this story as basically as I wanted to, in the basic sense of the story, I would say that the lazy lion Curly did not want to get up, and so his friend hid his phone, which made him have to look for it. But did he look for his phone? No, he got everybody else to look for his phone. Only when he needed to go to the bathroom did he see that his phone was lying under him the whole time. So when we retell a story, we try and figure out how we can make the story shorter but still giving the most important information. And we call that a summary, grade 3s. But again, we are going to talk about that in more detail in our next lesson. So in the next lesson, we're going to be looking at the following things. Restating a question. So we're still going to be focusing on the story of the lazy lion, but we're going to be learning about questions and how to answer them, and comprehension skills, looking at the elements of a story, again retelling the story, grade 3s, but this time we're going to be retelling it and looking at how to summarize it better, because retelling a story is basically saying a shorter version of the story, but still keeping the most important parts. So grade 3s, I want to thank you for joining me in this lesson, And remember that if you have any questions, to send it to the email address grade3@worksheetcloud.com. I hope you enjoyed this grade 3, and I hope that you're going to read the story, because it's going to be the activity. There's going to be no activity except for you to read the story that is going to be where the activity normally is on this website. So grade 3s, stay well and stay safe. Goodbye.